All right, guys, Wes here. Welcome back to the channel. Now, if you're anything like me, you've been playing a ton of Hogwarts Legacy lately to the point where you basically know the map like the back of your hand. But despite this single player game having been out for over 2 months now, there is still a ton of stuff to talk about, especially as the community digs into the development history and discovers more about what was cut, what is currently in the works, and what we could expect from the future of the franchise. So in today's video, we're going to go over everything that's been revealed about Hogwarts Legacy in the last few weeks, including future DLC plans, possible sequel content, as well as the biggest cut feature in Hogwarts Legacy. So if you guys are ready for this video, do me a favor, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to enter the PS5 giveaway for 110,000 subscribers. I will be announcing that very soon. I'm also giving away a Zelda Switch OLED over on my Twitch channel, so all of those details are in the pinned comment. The first thing we have to touch on is perhaps the biggest piece of Hogwarts Legacy / Harry Potter gaming news that we've gotten in a while, and it's one of the reasons why we didn't get Quidditch in Hogwarts Legacy, and that is the official announcement of Harry Potter Quidditch Champions, which by all accounts is looking like the spiritual successor to Harry Potter Quidditch World Cup, which is one of my favorite Harry Potter games in the entire franchise. Now, ever since the launch of Hogwarts Legacy, fans have been curious as to why a major part of the Harry Potter universe was omitted from one of the biggest Harry Potter games of all time, and developer Avalanche Software has remained kind of tight-lipped on why they chose not to include it, despite just saying that they're not going to include it in the game. So needless to say, many fans of the game, myself included, were holding out hope that there would be some kind of major Quidditch DLC that released in the near future, or at the very least it would be included in the Hogwarts Legacy sequel. However, as I predicted in a previous video, it seems that WB Games had other plans, and it's become pretty clear that the reason Quidditch was left out of Hogwarts Legacy was so this standalone Quidditch multiplayer game could take the spotlight. So this is why Quidditch is not in Hogwarts Legacy. It's because of Harry Potter Quidditch Champions. After all, it wouldn't make a lot of sense for WB to release a single player Harry Potter game with Quidditch if they were planning on releasing a Quidditch multiplayer game shortly afterwards. I was really hoping that Avalanche would add it sometime in the future for a Quidditch multiplayer game that's just an expansion of Hogwarts Legacy, but from WB's standpoint, that just wouldn't have made sense if they were planning on doing a second game. Despite Warner Bros. Likely doing what seemed logical to them at the time, fans of Hogwarts Legacy are naturally pretty upset at the fact that Quidditch was seemingly removed from the single player game, or they just chose not to develop it for the sake of an entirely separate multiplayer game, and I can absolutely sympathize. It almost seems like at one point Avalanche Software intended on having a Quidditch mode in Hogwarts Legacy until WB stepped in and told them to shut down the project for the sake of the rest of the game because of the spin-off that was in development. If you played through Hogwarts Legacy, then you know that the sport is referenced several times throughout the story, and since it's one of the most iconic aspects of the franchise, it does seem a little bit strange for the obvious part of the universe to not be included in this massive of a game that's sold incredibly well. Like, think about how populated the servers would be for a Quidditch mode on Hogwarts Legacy versus how it's going to be in a standalone multiplayer game. But when you look at it from the perspective of WB Games, it totally makes sense. Still, that doesn't help ward off the sting that Quidditch could have been in Hogwarts Legacy if Warner Bros. Hadn't decided to split the content up into multiple games, and even still, I don't think it's a good reason for it. Now, I think WB Games' play here is to take on games like Rocket League that are free to play. They sell a battle pass, they sell cosmetics, and if you look at the situation with Suicide Squad, imagine if Hogwarts Legacy was online, it featured a Quidditch mode, and then WB Games sold a battle pass in that mode. Having Quidditch Champions be its own standalone project, that means that they can microtransaction the heck out of it without dealing with the backlash that they would have if they would have had multiplayer and a battle pass in a game that was meant to be a story-driven experience. So this way they could build off of the hype of Hogwarts Legacy and then put all of the microtransactions and the battle pass content that they want. How many of you guys were playing Harry Potter games back in the early 2000s? Because if you were, you probably remember that the tie-in game for the Sorcerer's Stone had playable Quidditch, and Chamber of Secrets had it as well. However, in 2003, a standalone Quidditch game was released as well called Quidditch World Cup that was basically just the Quidditch modes from the other games expanded into a full game. The point I'm getting at is that there could have been a Quidditch mode in Hogwarts Legacy. It didn't really have to be a fully fleshed out mode. My point is they could have added it to the game and then used that mode right there as marketing for the full multiplayer game that they intended on releasing. At the very least, I hope they do some type of cross promotion between Hogwarts Legacy and Quidditch World Champions. Maybe add some custom skins if you own Hogwarts Legacy, and then if you own Quidditch World Champions, then you could get those in Hogwarts Legacy as well. Now, controversy aside, Quidditch Champions actually looks like a pretty interesting game, and if you want to get some reps in early, you can sign up for the playtest right now. According to the game's website, Quidditch Champions is going to be a fast-paced competitive multiplayer game featuring the world's most iconic magical sport. The game has reportedly been in development for several years by a company called Unbroken Studios, so it will not be developed by the same team that Hogwarts Legacy was made from, and from the looks of it, the game will be a fully fledged multiplayer game, and while no release date is currently set, it seems like the development is wrapping up since it's finally been formally announced and the playtest signups are live. The FAQ also says that there will be a full-fledged character customizer, so that should be pretty interesting nonetheless. It's currently unclear if the game will be available for the 8th generation console consoles, but it will certainly be available for PC, PS5, and the Xbox Series consoles, and I'm sure Nintendo Switch. Now, despite Hogwarts Legacy and Quidditch Champions being distinct games, there is still a chance that they are going to cross over with each other. For example, I wouldn't be surprised if there's in-game events that help promote each other, similar to how games like Call of Duty Warzone promote other games in the franchise by tying into each other somehow. Given the fact that Hogwarts Legacy is entirely single player and offline, it might be a little bit hard for WB to cross promote like Activision does, but the fact that they're making two different games kind of implies that they're going to at least try. In a perfect world, Quidditch Champions would just be a game within Hogwarts Legacy that you could play separately if you choose, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen at all, obviously. Maybe you'll be able to import your custom character from Hogwarts Legacy into Quidditch Champions, or information from your Wizarding World account, or maybe, and I'm going to get a little crazy with this, maybe you'll be able to watch Quidditch Champion matches from within Hogwarts Legacy by going to the stadium on campus. There are a ton of ways the two games could market and connect with each other, and I'm 99% sure that WB is going to try to do something along those lines, since that's really good and the only explanation as to why Hogwarts Legacy didn't have Quidditch at all. But at this point, we just have to wait and see. Now, one piece of potentially really bad news that comes from the announcement of Quidditch Champions is the fact that this basically confirms that no future Hogwarts Legacy content or project will have playable Quidditch. So the existence of a live service Quidditch game more or less confirms that Hogwarts Legacy and the future of that game franchise is never going to get a Quidditch mode in either its sequel or an expansion. This is obviously really disappointing because having such a well-detailed Harry Potter world without Quidditch just feels kind of wrong. I adore Hogwarts Legacy and I think Avalanche did an incredible job, but Quidditch is such an obvious hole in its world building, and the fact that it was possibly omitted just for the sake of a multiplayer spin-off live service game is kind of disappointing. Hopefully WB reconsiders this for future Harry Potter games, but I won't be the only one really disappointed if the Hogwarts Legacy sequel still doesn't have Quidditch simply because WB wants us to go play a multiplayer live service game instead. Some people just don't want to play multiplayer games, you know what I mean? Some people, like myself, just wanted to play Quidditch within Hogwarts Legacy's world while remaining in character and just playing against NPCs. Now, it shouldn't be too surprising that WB is trying their best to expand their Harry Potter gaming influence as much as possible, given the fact that Hogwarts Legacy sales aren't slowing down at all. According to a recent report by Forbes, Hogwarts Legacy managed to beat sales expectations by a whopping 256%, with over 12 million copies sold within its first 2 weeks, which reportedly generated over $850 million in revenue. Now, with Hogwarts Legacy putting up sales numbers like this, it seems to suggest that a DLC is inevitable, but now that Quidditch isn't going to be a part of it, that leaves us to speculate about other things like story expansions, or perhaps just a massive expansion upon the spells and potions that the game launched with. The fact that the game was expected to sell much worse should explain the leak of DLC plans, as WB and Avalanche were obviously caught off guard by just how successful this game ended up being, so I really wouldn't be surprised if an expansion is announced later this year. Needless to say, Hogwarts Legacy is a perfect example of what can be done when a major game company actually respects its fans and gives them what they want. There has been a pretty nasty stigma attached to licensed video games, and that's typically because the companies that buy the rights to the major IPs actually don't want to put more money into the projects than is absolutely necessary, which is why most licensed games are rushed, they're cheap and shallow, while games like Hogwarts Legacy that treat the IP with respect are in the minority. The rights to a franchise like this are extremely expensive, and obviously WB wants to make their money back as reliably as possible, but this game is proof that if you put the extra time and money in, you could make one of the best games of the year and get the entire community rallying around the project. Hogwarts Legacy could have just been a generic, shallow action RPG with a Harry Potter paint job, and it probably would have sold 5 to 10 million copies, but instead, WB and Avalanche made one of the best action adventure games of the decade, and hands down the best Harry Potter game of all time, and one of the best-selling games of the decade. This is a game that not only brought the entire community of Harry Potter fans together, but it also brought legions of new fans who just wanted to see how good the game really was. With the success of Hogwarts Legacy and other recent titles like Jedi Survivor, we may be entering a new era of licensed games that are awesome, and I'm excited to see where this goes next. Speaking of taking care of their IP, some new content was recently discovered and spread around the internet, and stuff like this always makes me really excited to see where the franchise is going next. A Reddit user recently shared a video of them exploring a secret snack room discovered in the Hufflepuff common room, which honestly raises a ton of questions about other secret pieces of content that still haven't been found. It's honestly amazing to think about after the fact that this game has been out for over 2 months and has millions of people that have played the game, and yet there are still things that have gone unnoticed until now. It makes you wonder what's going to be discovered next. The biggest factor in regards to potential DLC for this game, in my opinion, is the 8th generation console ports, which as it stands right now are currently in development at Avalanche. The studio simply can't dedicate a ton of resources to DLC when they're still working on getting the game up and running on the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. Out of those 3 versions of the game, I think the Switch is going to be the main priority, because when you look at the gaming landscape, most PlayStation and Xbox gamers have already upgraded upgraded to the next console, while the Switch gamers are still chugging along on their 2017 piece of hardware. Hogwarts Legacy could sell like crazy on the Switch, and the version of the game is slated to come out this summer, but given how massive the game is and how many technical issues there could potentially be, it's safe to say that Avalanche currently has all hands on deck getting the ports up and running before they add anything more to the base experience. While I do think it's possible that DLC is announced after work on the 8th generation versions of the base game are completed, I don't think it will be sooner than that. So if you're holding out hope for Hogwarts Legacy DLC, don't expect it to launch until mid to late 2024, because if work begins later this year, I think we will need another 6 to 9 months in the oven, which at that point the game will likely be a year and a half old already. Also at that point, Warner Bros might just say forget it and tell Avalanche to work on the sequel instead of a DLC. Honestly, I could go either way at this point. If you ask me, Hogwarts Legacy DLC will either be announced this summer or it's not going to happen at all. But despite the game being months old at this point and there being no concrete DLC prospects, I'm really excited for the future of Hogwarts Legacy because there is a lot that can be done with this property on top of the groundwork that was laid in the first game. With how popular Hogwarts Legacy was and how good it sold, we know that a sequel is in development, or at the very least, Warner Bros. Games gave the green light. And now that we know that Quidditch is going to get a pretty massive video game presence in the near future, it really just remains to be seen how exactly all of the content interacts and when it's all going to come out. I honestly cannot wait for the world of Harry Potter to become a dominant gaming franchise. But what do you guys think? Are we gonna get a Hogwarts Legacy 2? Are we gonna get DLC for this game? And are you down with a standalone Quidditch game rather than them adding it into Hogwarts Legacy? Guys, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel with your notifications turned on. Be sure to enter the 2 giveaways that I've got going on. The details are in the pinned comment. And thank you all for watching. This has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.